So how much should parents put aside each month for their kids? And how do you balance it with other needs? Well, we spoke to a financial planning expert, and this is what he has to say. According to Felix Neo, a licensed financial planner at Wealth Vantage Advisory, the ideal amount parents should set aside for their children varies depending on parents' priorities. However, he does offer some general guidelines.
I would say anywhere between 10 to 20%, at the most maybe 30% of your disposable income, you can actually set aside for the child. But anything beyond that, I think is a little excessive, right? Because you really need to, number one, make sure you can, have enough money to spend for your living expenses today. But you must be able to also put aside, money for investments, because this is meant for your future self, if you like. So you must be able to have that discipline, right? To make sure that you have funds available for today, as well as socking it away, if you like, and growing it through investments.
You probably know by now of the controversy of graduates who are facing difficulty paying off their student debts. If you want to avoid your child getting into debt before they even graduate, start an education fund for them today. Where do you start, and what are the best investment options for an education fund for your child? Felix says parents shouldn't take too long to think about it.
Start somewhere. Better than to consider taking 1 year or 2 years evaluating options that are available in the market. There's no need for you to do all of that. Just start something easy. Some people might want to go through, for example, a PTPTN savings, the SSPN savings. That's one route, right? Obviously, that's a good, vehicle. Especially for the tax relief purposes. So it was 6,000 last year tax relief. This year, 2019, it's going to be 8,000. So that's great. But the truth of the matter is that if you are only putting money into the SSPN savings, where the dividend rate historically has been about 4%, it's going to be quite difficult for you to achieve your targeted savings goal for education.
Besides PTPTN, the next best thing is unit trust funds.
So you can start with some unit trust portfolios if you like, or you can buy direct shares. Those who have the means might want to look at property investments. You could go all the way to foreign properties as well. So the options are plenty in that sense. But for those who don't have that much at this point in time or as a start, then just start with something simple. Unit trust portfolios you can start with as little as 1,000 ringgit, and every month you can put $100 or $200, and as your income rises, you can actually increase that. There are certain things that you have to be mindful for unit trust, because it's not all low risk at the end of the day, right? If you go into equity funds, there are ups and there are downs as well. So when it comes to unit trust investments, number one, pay attention to the cost of investments, right? Because if you were to go through certain channels to purchase your investments, your unit trust, it can cost you anywhere between 5 to 6% sales charge. So pay attention to the cost, first thing. Second thing is, when you're investing in unit trusts, a portfolio of unit trust funds, don't forget it is not just buy and hold and do nothing until you want the money back, because you need to pay attention to the performance, right? I like to call that active performance management, where you are looking at your portfolio, you're tracking it, and if there is a reason to rebalance your portfolio, you do that. If there is a reason to switch funds, right, or restructure your portfolio, you do that. If there's an opportunity to take profit, you also do that. If there's an opportunity to reinvest your profit because the markets have come down, you must be able to do that. So don't just buy unit trusts blindly, right? Make sure that after purchasing, you take active performance management in order to get better investment returns.
Besides unit trusts, there are also those who choose to invest in properties and buying stocks. Felix says that the downside in investing in property is that it is not as easy to sell compared to unit trusts or stocks when you do need the money.
If for whatever reason you don't want the property anymore, can you just sell it immediately? The answer is not really, unless it's a fire sale, right? So property investments are good long-term investments that can actually be used to fund child education. However, be mindful of the risks involved, right? Because many new investors in properties today, what's happening is that the loans that they have to pay, right, the mortgage on the loans that they have to take is likely going to be higher than the rental income. So what it means is that they're actually using their monthly cash flow to support the repayment. So it's all good if the person, the investor, the father or the mother is able to continue to do that. However, let's say if job security becomes a problem, if the father or the mother loses a job, is retrenched and all that, so how are they going to continue to pay, right? It's different for the other investments that you had mentioned, for example, shares or unit trusts, because shares or unit trusts, if you can't afford to put in anymore, you can just stop. Nothing's going to happen. There is no loan on it.
Felix adds that parents should also prioritize getting insurance for their child when they can afford it.
If you were to ask me what kind of insurance does a young child need, I would say try and prioritize the medical cards if possible. Why is that the case? Simply because sometimes the child may develop some kind of medical conditions as they grow up, right? And you don't want that to be a pre-existing condition for them later on in life. So it's a good idea to have a medical card. Now, of course, depending on the type of profile of the client that we're talking about, if the cost of a medical card is a little too much for them to bear, then my suggestion is very simple. At that juncture, depend on your company benefits. So what it means is that when you're looking for a job, do pay attention to company benefits as well, right? Then, for those who may have a little bit more funds set aside, then you might want to look at, very simple PA, personal accident type of insurance. But you can't buy much for children because at the end of the day, insurance companies won't want to take on such risks, too much of it. Then for those who have a little bit more funding, you can look at, for example, critical illness coverage as well.